What's going on, YouTube? And welcome back to another episode here at WILDMAN Lifts. I'm your host, WILDMAN. Now on tonight's episode, yes, tonight, I'm hoping that this new floodlight that I bought is going to work out properly and we're going to be able to get some good shots even when it's dark outside. On today's menu, it's going to be this bad boy, which this is actually an axle bar. So it's about 2 inches thick in diameter, about as thick as a Coke can, so you can't wrap your hand completely around this baby. It also doesn't have any knurling and doesn't bend like a barbell does, because barbells are made to be lifted. So the idea of this today is to try to get at least attempt to get a 6-rep max, and it's going to be this weight right here. Now this bar actually weighs 30 pounds instead of 45 pounds like a traditional barbell. So this is 300 pounds total on the bar. So let's see if I can get to my 6-rep max today. If I even get close to a 6-rep max today, at least like above 3, I'll be very happy. So let's pop into today's workout. Let's see what we got going on. Now for this evening strength giant set, I'm going to be doing the axle bench press like I just said. And the idea is I'm going to do 6 reps all the way up to my top set and trying to see if I can just do high volume reps all the way up. And in between, I'm going to be doing that monster tire flip as well, because this is a very common movement in strongman, but it also contributes to a lot of just practical, everyday life, practical strength. And I'm going to be doing some sledgehammer strikes as well, because this works your shoulders, works your explosiveness, and your obliques. And that's going to be the strength giant set for the day. And the idea of using an axle bar instead of a regular barbell is really just to kind of vary the lift. If you constantly train using only one implement, such as a barbell, which is made to be lifted, then your muscles and your body gets used to that one implement. Versus if you switch it up, like you use an axle bar, or later I'll be using a multi-grip bar for the incline bench press. This really shifts all your muscles to have to work differently, because it's activating different fibers of the muscle within that major muscle group. I've had a lot of people try to lift the axle bar just on the bench press or back squat or deadlift or overhead pressing. And it really kind of depends. Some people say that it's easier, and some people had a more difficult time with it. So it really is kind of dependent upon your preference or how you're genetically built. Because for some people, using this implement is either easier or harder, or they don't really notice a difference at all. So it's really going to depend on you and your preference, and genetically, how are you built, where it might be easier or harder for you. Depends really on what you're made up of. But really, in the grand scheme of things, it's totally worth it to have a bar like this or something different other than a barbell, because just changing that lift very slightly is going to allow you to lift heavier, longer. Because if I was just using a barbell and not switching it out with something like an axle bar, then my muscles would get fatigued all the time working that same microfibers within the muscle. So the fact that this is changing it just a little bit allows me to lift heavier and also to lift longer throughout my workouts. Now I'm coming up on my top set right after I do these strikes. This is 300 pounds total. And the idea here was to try to hit a 6-rep max. But realistically, I would be happy if I got just above 3, like even 4. And it actually moved pretty well. So I kind of knew that I was going to be able to do big things here, but fatigue sets in very, very fast when you start getting into heavy weight. So after the 4th rep, it started to slow down significantly. But I was determined to try to get at least 5, and that would make me super happy. And it was a very, very slow burn, but it actually stuck. And I actually owe that a lot to my tricep strength, because once that kicks over midway up that lift, your triceps take over, and you really have to make sure your triceps are extra strong so that you're able to transition smoothly and lock it out at the top so that you don't end up missing the lift. All right, so that was a success. And let me tell you something, with the axle bar, I really feel like that it activates my chest a lot more. That's kind of the reason why I like to do this. Also in strongman, we use the axle bar a lot. So just getting some extra practice on this thing, even if it's something that isn't tested in strongman events, this is still something that I like to get practice with, just so I can feel the dynamic of it as I'm doing other lifts with it later. And I'm able to overload the weight like I did today. But the workout is not over and the night has just begun. So let's continue on with the variation giant set. Now for the variation giant set, I was doing 3 rounds, and I was going to work up to an 8-rep max using this multi-grip football bar. That's another name for it. This is just a great variation bench press to do as well, and it really carries over into the log, because you'll see that log, I do incline bench pressing with the log all the time. And this is a flatter bar, so that makes it a lot easier to get to a really deep range of motion compared to the log. So this is just making it extra powerful off the chest. And it definitely sets into a lot of fatigue a lot faster because of those multi-grips. And I just kept it in the same format during those 3 rounds with the tire flips. And then I also continued to do the sledgehammer strikes as well, just trying to keep everything even, because at the very end, all this accumulative work is going to carry over into the long run for practical strength. And we want to make sure that we're always practically strong in everyday life and not just one area. And for the accessory giant set, I didn't do an assistance giant set. I was doing 3 rounds. And I started with doing individual overhead tricep extensions, just trying to make sure I really finish off those triceps, because like I said, that accumulates to big strength. And then I did that braided band pec flies, just to try to kind of finish off the chest and get that really big stretch reflex. And then, of course, face pulls, because you know I really love shoulder longevity, and I don't like shoulder impingements, and this helps. And that was going to be the entire workout for the day. And that's going to conclude it for tonight's workout. I really appreciate everybody stopping by, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.